And hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Cable. Chapters is the television show that profiles local authors, editors, and publishers in our community. I'm Eliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. Our episode this week comes to you from Empire Books and News at Pullman Square in downtown Huntington. On this week's episode of Chapters, we're going to focus on a writers' organization that is very special and very important to the writers' heritage of West Virginia, but may also be of interest to our viewers in Kentucky and Ohio as well. And that organization is the West Virginia Writers Incorporated organization. And here to talk about that organization with us today is the new president, the newly inducted president of West Virginia Writers, Susan Nicholas. And you may be familiar with Susan. You may have heard her voice and seen her picture because she is a part of the co-anchoring team at WSAZ News Channel 3, and she co-anchors the Wake Up Sunrise and Today newscasts, and she gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start her day at WSAZ, but this early riser, she doesn't mind the crazy hours because she wakes up early even on her days off to see what's going on and prepare for the day ahead. And you can see Susan every Thursday and Friday morning alongside Rob Johnson and Brandon Butcher on WSAZ. And when Susan isn't working at WSAZ, she's still working. She's the mother of two girls who keep her very busy with their after-school activities, and she is, as we mentioned, the newly inducted president of the West Virginia Writers Incorporated organization. And we're delighted to have her here to talk to us about this very important organization. Susan, welcome to Chapters. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm a big fan, too. I always tune in because a lot of the writers you interview, a lot of the authors are folks who are in our group, so I like to tune in and see what they're talking about also.
Well,
so thank you.
We appreciate it so much. We're so glad to have you here. So let's talk a little bit about what is the West Virginia Writers Incorporated organization.
Well, it is the place to go to if you're just starting out as a writer, or maybe you've been writing for years and have just moved to our tri-state area and are just looking for, other people like you, because being a writer is a very lonely and solitary career or hobby to have. So it's nice to find your community, your people. So West Virginia Writers is the perfect place to go. You can go to the website or the Facebook page, find out about everything from workshops, contests, even places to submit your work, and network with other writers across the area. So it's the place to go to find all your information.
And this organization has been around for a long time. It was established in 1977, so it's been around quite some time. Mm-hmm. And one of the founding principles for the organization is that the written word is one of the most distinguishing characteristics of all human endeavors. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this organization, and you touched on it a moment ago, is that no matter what stage you are mm-hmm. as a writer, if you're a novice writer just sort of getting into the craft, or if you're a writer who's had several published works by small and large presses, you can find a niche and you can find something to be involved with in the organization.
Yes, definitely. And it's also the kind of a group where if you want to get involved and help out, we're always looking for volunteers to help out with conferences or events that we're doing. Even some of our festivals we have, like the Word and Song Festival over the summer at Central City, or Festival in Charleston, we set up a booth and we encourage people that are in our organization to join us there at the booth and talk to people about what we do and kind of get the word out there about our organization. In fact, we're going to be at an event coming up in September, the Ohio River Festival of Books in Huntington. There will be a table for West Virginia writer folks to be there, and then we're hoping people stop by and talk to us.
That'll be great, and
Mm-hmm.
we certainly encourage our viewers to do that if they're going to be down for the Ohio River Festival of Books. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in West Virginia Writers as a member.
Well, about 10, 12 years ago, I was starting to do a little bit of writing. I had done writing when I was younger, and even in high school enjoyed it, but then kind of pushed that aside. But then about 12 years ago, I started getting into writing again, and I thought, well, my goodness, how do I even get a book published? Or even before that, how do you even start to write a book or a poem? And so I started doing some searches on the internet, and I found West Virginia Writers, and I thought, wow, this was here all along, and I didn't realize it. So I think the first thing I did was entered a children's story into one of the contests that West Virginia Writers puts on. And that was my first introduction into it. And then I got a little braver, and the next summer I went to the conference in Cedar Lakes, and it was almost like a family reunion because people, even if we had never met before, they just welcome you in, and you're right there among your people, and I've been involved ever since then. I was also looking for a local group. I thought, well, it would be nice to toss some ideas back and forth with some local writers. And on the West Virginia Writer website, it mentions each county and if there are any local writing groups. And I found a couple of them at Huntington, but it said they were closed. They already had enough people in them. So I thought, well, I'll start my own. So I found a few writers in the area, and we began Patchwork Writers. And because we're all over the board in our genres, children's writers, memoir, horror writers, poets, so that's why Patchwork. And so we started meeting once a month, and we've been doing this now for 8 years. So it's sprung out of West Virginia Writers. And we even have another group that has branched off from that, a smaller children's writing group. So, but that all started from West Virginia Writers.
And I'm glad you mentioned some of those smaller writing groups because we do have the Patchwork Writers group, of which I'm a member. They meet the second Monday of each month at St. Paul Lutheran Church at 6 o'clock, and they can contact you if they have questions or want more information. But there's also a couple of other groups, the Guyandotte Poets. That group's been discussing poems for more than 25 years. They are currently seeking some people, but you have to contact John McKernan, who's interested. And also the Black Dog Writers group. That's one of those groups that is closed. They have not accepted any new writers or new folks interested for quite some time. But it's interesting how that Patchwork Writers group becomes an offshoot. And I know something that we'll touch on as we continue speaking about the West Virginia Writers Organization is that people really enjoy that weekend at Cedar Lakes, which is where the conference is held. And I know that oftentimes you hear this, and so do I. When the weekend is over, people think, gosh, I wish we could keep this feeling and this momentum going throughout the year. And so these writers' organizations are a terrific way.
That helps do that. Yes, it really does. We call it Camp for Grown-Ups at Cedar Lakes because it has that camp feel, and it's just a good time to be out and see the scenery, the pond and the trees, the hills. It's a beautiful location to have a very creative group like writers that we have. And we have some big names, and we're working on planning. I'm in the planning stages right now for this summer. It'll be June 12th, 13th, and 14th, if I remember correctly. So keep that on your calendar if you're thinking about wanting to get together with other writers. We'll have lots of presenters coming in and teaching workshops, lots of opportunities to get some feedback from some people who've done this for a while.
And we should also point out, too, that you don't necessarily have to be a resident of West Virginia to be a member. For our viewers that are watching us in Southern Ohio, Eastern Kentucky, if they want to be a part of the organization, they can also join as well.
Yes, you can. And you get, when you join, it's, I believe, a $25 membership fee for the year, but you get a nice newsletter that comes out. We have one coming out here in a few weeks, and these come out several times a year to kind of keep you posted on things. Plus, we do it online, an online version. We have a Facebook page. You can check the Facebook page and the website page anytime for free. I check it couple times a week, even though, of course, I'm the president, but I also want to see if maybe there's an opportunity to submit a short story someone has mentioned on there. So it's a good opportunity to kind of keep in the loop of what's going on.
I wanted to ask you, too, about some of your responsibilities and duties as you come in as the West Virginia Writers President. Certainly, as you mentioned, one of those duties is the annual conference every year. But what are some other responsibilities that you have as President, and what are some goals that you have for the organization as we move through the 2014-2015 year?
I think the big thing that I'm to do and that I plan to do is just to get the word out there. A lot of writers think that they're just all alone with their keyboard or their notebook. I want to get the word out there that there are others in the area just like you that love to write and discuss writing, discuss books, to keep learning about their craft. So I'm trying to go to a lot of festivals and do fun things like what I've done so far, and we'll do again coming up at the festival in September, is we do a lot of interactive type things with people walking by. We have a big chart and we start the first line of a story or a poem, and we encourage people walking by to come have fun. Writing can be fun, even if you always thought, oh, I don't write poetry. Well, you might just surprise yourself and have fun when you stop by the West Virginia Writers Table. So we will have some interactive games, and that's the one thing I've been doing at a lot of these festivals, is just trying to spread the word about West Virginia writers and to get people, to realize that writing can be fun. And then once they meet some other writers, realize you can do this either as a hobby or you can make a living at this. You just got to start networking and getting in there and finding the right path to go with your writing.
And I can know when I joined the organization a number of years ago, that was the best benefit for me, is exactly what you're saying. You as a writer sit either with that pen and notepad in hand, or you sit in front of the computer screen, sometimes day after day, month after month, working on something, and you feel like, my goodness, am I the only one that has writer's block on this random Tuesday at 9 a.m.? And then when you connect and network with those other writers, you realize, oh, somebody else has writer's block at 9 a.m. like me.
Right.
But it's an opportunity, I think, to not only network with those writers, but find out, tips and strategies that maybe they're using that could be a benefit for you. And I know that's something that is emphasized quite a bit at the conference through the speakers and the presenters that we have, or that you have, and that the organization sets up, that we've all been able to experience as a member. So it's a great networking opportunity, but you really learn so much from just the limited time, and you wish it could be more, but the limited time, that we have together as members of that organization to really collaborate.
Well, one thing I also am planning to do this year is to reach out to more of the young people, the young writers in our communities, go out to the schools and try to encourage these kids from elementary up through high school that they could start, they can already be involved in West Virginia Writers. We have a contest every year geared toward our youngest folks. And I want to make sure that a lot of their teachers know about these. It doesn't cost a thing for these kids to enter the contest, and the benefit is they could actually win some money. So, plus, just the I guess bragging rights that they won something. So that's another thing I plan to do when I'm spreading the word, is to try to encourage more young people to get involved into writing.
That leads me to my next question, is the annual West Virginia Writers competition that kind of coincides with the annual meeting, which will be June 12th, 13th, and 14th this year. In addition to the kids contest, there's a number of other contests for different genres of writing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Right. Every year we have, and it may even be in my newsletter here, we have topics, everything for children's writers, memoir, short story, poets. And what's really nice is we have a couple of categories called emerging writers, those who maybe have never entered a contest, maybe have never shown their writing to anybody. This is their chance to enter a category where they're competing with other newbies in that genre, as opposed to feeling intimidated. They're competing against someone who already has 4 published books out there and is entering the same category. So that's nice. Coming up in October, we'll be having our executive board meeting where we fine-tune these categories and decide, are we going to add something new this year? One year we added a category, war. You could, write an essay about war. Some always are more specific on Appalachian history, Appalachian writing, that type of a thing. We also have a playwriting category, screenplay writing category. So coming up here soon, we will be working on those and then putting the list out there and letting people know what they need to polish up on, what scripts or stories they want to submit.
And for that contest, though, there is a reading fee, correct, that is payable for some of those contests?
Yes, there's usually, it's like $10 to submit your story. But the plus side is you could win $100, or more. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of what some of those may be, $200. So I think if you're sending in your complete novel, it might be $12 to enter. So it's still relatively cheap, but we have to pay the judges. They get a whole stack of these in the winter that they need to go through, so that helps out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple other things that have sort of sprung off of the organization. You mentioned some of the smaller writing groups throughout the area and really throughout the state, and people can check those out on the West Virginia Writers website. But there's also podcasts that are available for people to listen to. There's an online forum where people can go in and discuss and post things about contests that are coming up or tips that they've used or something that they've uncovered. So as the organization has grown significantly since 1977 and technology has emerged more, West Virginia Writers is really dabbling into a lot of different areas associated with writing.
Right, that group that formed it back in the 70s, they never would have thought about Twitter and Facebook. None of us knew about that back then. So with your writing groups now, it is very important. In fact, a lot of us communicate more through social media, whether it's about meetings or about upcoming events. Hey, make sure you stop by, so-and-so has a book launch event. A lot of them have happened here at Empire Books, so it's a neat way to get the word out there on the West Virginia Writers Facebook page, website, and other forms of social media.
I wanted to ask you also about something that has evolved from the annual conference that's held every June in Cedar Lakes. I know in 2000, last year, in 2013-14, there was a smaller conference that was held in the spring in Elkins. And I know there's been some discussion with the membership and with the executive board about having maybe another smaller, maybe scaled down conference some other time during the year, maybe in the fall or spring, to go kind of as an offshoot of the annual conference at Cedar Lakes. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and where does that stand with the organization's goals at this point?
Yes, that's something that I would like to continue doing. The previous president started that, and we've had one. It was in Elkins, and it was nice. And it's kind of like having college courses all crammed into one day, everything you would need to know. So we do plan to do more of those. We don't have one on the schedule for this fall because me being new, I just took over in July. I thought, wow, that is a lot for me to have to plan right now. So I kind of thought, whoa, let me focus on our conference in June, and then by fall, we'll be ready to try to do one. And those I'm hoping to do all over the state. I would love to have a one-day conference in Huntington, Charleston, Parkersburg, all over the area. And that way, it makes it a little easier on some of the writers who have to drive several hours to get to Cedar Lakes. Maybe if we put a one-day conference closer to their backyard, then that helps them out a little bit. So that we don't have one in the works yet, but that's something that we hope to do by next fall.
What's the process like when you plan the annual conference in terms of determining the speakers that you're going to have, the topics that are going to be discussed? I know you mentioned the meeting that you're going to have coming up soon here in the fall about the contest fields and what's going to be available to enter for people to place their writing in for judging. But what's it like coming up with or working on putting something like that together where you've got to bring speakers in and you're negotiating what time is this going to be offered, how long should this session last, who's going to lead that session? What is that like? I imagine it's like putting a big jigsaw puzzle together.
It is, and one of the previous presidents, Sandy Tritt, said what she likes to do is to write everything out, all the presenters, and then cut them out and then kind of play with it like it's a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, and figure out who you want to be at what time. It's a little overwhelming. I'm not at that point yet in the stage. We're just at this point trying to brainstorm who should we bring in? Who would our writers in our region benefit the most from some of these workshops? And I'm in that phase, and I already have one notebook full and also email pages full of ideas from people, which I love getting ideas. And I've even used our social media a lot, Facebook, Twitter, saying, okay, who would you like to hear from? Who would you like to learn from at a conference like this? And I'm getting a lot of good suggestions. And then I'm going to form a committee, and we're going to go through all these and decide, okay, who can we get? And then where do we schedule them all? Because one thing a lot of folks say is, I wanted to go to this session about poetry, but it was the same time there was a panel on how to get short stories published from a panel of publishers. And so what I would like to do is maybe even duplicate some of the big events, some of the big presentations and workshops, so that everybody gets to hear who they want to hear, that type of a thing.
How has the West Virginia Writers Organization been received by and or worked with some of the other humanities organizations that are out there in West Virginia? There's the West Virginia Humanities Council, for example, the West Virginia Center for the Book, a lot of other organizations that promote literary arts in the state. How does West Virginia Writers maybe fit in there, or does the organization rely on partnerships with those organizations to make the conference happen every year, or to fulfill some of the missions that the organization has?
We really do, as far as the conference, it's just us. However, in the past, the Humanities Council for West Virginia has held a free Writers Toolkit event. That was usually in March at the Culture Center, and they would always invite us to be part of it. They didn't have it last year, and I'm hoping maybe to get some discussions going to try to get things like that again, because we all can work together, I think, and it just kind of helps. We feed off of each other a little bit. But as far as us, them being involved in West Virginia, the writers, the conference, they don't have a part in that. It's all us.
For better and for worse.
That's
sometimes.
right. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm
look,
looking forward to it, and I look forward to meeting some more folks at some of these events, like the one coming up, the Ohio River Festival of Books. So I'm looking forward to meeting some more potential members face to face.
And one thing I'll say, and I know you can attest to this, is because we're so prevalent on social media, as you
Right.
touched on earlier, to communicate, and oftentimes that's how we all stay in touch with one another,
Right.
is through Facebook and Twitter and those kinds of things, that I love to go to the conference, because those people that I only get to talk to 363 days out of the year on Facebook, I can meet face to face for a
Right.
couple of days, and I can say, hi, Daniel McTaggart, nice to meet you. We've been
Yes.
talking for a year on Facebook, or
Right.
nice to meet you, Sandy Tripp. We've been talking on Facebook
Right.
for a year. You were helpful in this area. So it really does have a feel of family and a feel of community, and that was something. The first conference I went to, 18, 19 years ago, I was so scared to go,
Yeah.
because I thought, well, gosh, there's going to be all these talented, prolific, proficient
Right.
writers there, and here I'm just little old me trying to get started.
Right.
But nobody is treated, that's the right word, that
Right.
way, and that,
Well, good.
and I think that is something that, not just with the conference, but I think folks that are looking for a good, quality, sincere organization to join that is focused on writing and writers, that this would be something worth checking out for those reasons.
Good, and we have a lot of fun too. We have entertainment on Friday night and Saturday night. Saturday night we usually have whoever has come to teach a songwriting class. We also do that. Perform. So we have local bands perform, singer-songwriters. Friday night is sometimes more of a talent show type of night where we have fun. The Fearless Fools have performed before, and we might even have some interesting acts coming up this year on Friday night. But so that's just some fun type of things to do. And you've touched on this also. It's a good way to meet and network with other people, and maybe you're working on a particular type of story. You can actually talk to someone who has written something like that, or maybe they're working on the same type of a project, and it's a good way to work and maybe share your manuscripts with each other to get some constructive criticism, get some good feedback from each other that way. So there are a lot of good opportunities with joining a group, and even if you're not sure, I don't know about joining a group, at least check out our website and our Facebook page, and then see what you think after you do that.
And that leads to my final question, Susan, in our final moments here. If folks want to get in touch with you to talk to you about the West Virginia Writers Organization, or if they want to find out more about the organization directly, how can they get in contact with you? How can they get in contact with the West Virginia Writers Organization?
I am easy to track down. I've even been contacted at WSAZ. I get emails there saying, I heard you write children's stories. Is that true? And I'm like, yes. And then I tell them about some of the organizations and some of the groups they can join that are branched off from West Virginia Writers. If you just go to WV Writers well, wvwriters.org, I hope I said that correctly, westvirginiawriters.org, then you can find a list of officers, and my name is right there with an email address. Or if you're more into Facebook, you can go to our Facebook page and find me there, also to contact me. You can even contact me at the TV station, and I will tell you more about the group.
That's great, and we certainly encourage any of our viewers, and especially those viewers that live in Southern Ohio and Eastern Kentucky,
Yeah.
if they're looking for a writers organization to join, West Virginia Writers is a good place to consider for a lot of different reasons. And Susan Nicholas, the incoming president of West Virginia Writers Incorporated, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on Chapters today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure. And finally, we want to say a special thanks to our friends at Empire Books and News for providing our studio taping space today. We encourage you to stop by Empire Books and News to satisfy whatever reading tastes you may have, and also remind you that many of the authors, publishers, and editors that have been featured on previous Chapters programs have their works for sale right here at Empire Books and News. So we encourage you to stop by and check that out. We also want to remind you they have the largest selection of magazines in the tri-state. So whatever you like to read, Charlotte and her staff can find that for you right here at Empire Books and News. And if you have a question, comment, or story suggestion about this Chapters program or a previous Chapters program you have seen, we certainly want to hear those comments from you. You can send us an email to the address right here at the bottom of the screen, letter L, letter P, number 4, LP4 at zoominternet.net. We do appreciate and do read all of the comments that we receive to that email address about Chapters. So we appreciate those folks who have taken the time to write us here. Those do mean a lot, and we appreciate that so much. And also, if you want to check out a previous episode of Chapters that has been aired on our program here on Armstrong Cable, you can check that out through the Chapters YouTube page. Just go to www.youtube.com. In the search field, type Armstrong One Wire, and you can find the Chapters link and find all the previous episodes of Chapters. So if you've missed something or you want to go back and watch something from a particular author, publisher, or editor that you watched or saw previously, that's where you can find it at the Armstrong One Wire YouTube page. So we encourage you to check that out as well. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.